Hello and welcome to the OKPreps Extra Show. I'm Patrick Prince, joined as always by Barry Lewis. We're going to talk a little football, a little basketball, and we'll see what else pops up. Barry, let's start with Kip Shaw. More coaching news in the Tulsa area. Longtime Central coach going to Edison. Your thoughts?
Yes, it was quite a surprise. Kip Shaw had been at Central for 12 years, the last 8 as head coach, and it's really done a really good job there. It's sort of been under the radar, but Tulsa Public Schools, it's not an easy place for football programs to win. Um, and so the job he's done at Central is really, it's very under the radar, really been really solid, 4 consecutive non-losing seasons, and that's saying a lot. They've had their only during his time there, they've had their only 2 winning seasons since 2011. They are consistently in contention for playoff berths there. This past year, they got a little bit unlucky. They finished in a 3-way tie for third. They were the odd team out as far as qualifying for the playoffs, but a very competitive program at Central. Uh, I think one of his strengths is his athletic, as TPS athletic director Mick Wilson said, is he's really good at building relationships, very consistent, very loyal, and it's a really good hire for Edison. So he's going to try to sort of get that program rebuilt like he did the Central program, although the Central program was in decent shape when he inherited the program. So, but he did build on the success that they had while he was there. They posted their only playoff win they've had since 1997. So I think if he can get the Edison program to where the Central program is right now, I think you would consider that a success. Of course, he and everyone at Edison wants Edison to even go further than what Central's done, instead of just falling short of the playoffs, to get in the playoffs and make some noise in the playoffs. Edison, you remember back as recently as 2019, had a team that was a state title contender, really. Well, as much as anyone could be in 5A as long as Carl Albert's around. But they were a team that could have lost a heartbreaker in the quarterfinals that year. And but the last 5 years has been a bit rough at Edison. They haven't had a winning season since 2019. And one of the factors in Kip Shaw going from Central to Edison is that Central is 2A now, and Edison 2A1, and Edison is 5A. So a little bit of it's a new challenge for Coach Shaw, and a higher classification. And as Coach Shaw said, I think there is something to this, that at Central, there comes a time with coaches at all levels, I believe, whether it's NFL, college, or high schools, where sometimes you need a new voice in the room. And he thought maybe that was also the case at Central, that they needed a new voice after hearing his for 8 years as the head coach and 12 overall. So now he will be the new voice at Edison.
Was the 2019 Edison team Sevion Morrison's team?
Yes,
That
yes.
yeah. Uh, what are some of the now you mentioned the jump in classes. What are some of the challenges at Edison?
Just like at most TPS schools, it's like compared to the suburban schools, you don't have the facilities and just overall funds to compete with the suburban schools, especially in this era of the quote transfer portal. I mean, all TPS schools face that challenge. Even Booker T faces that challenge. Some face that challenge more so than others.
What?
And Edison, of course, is one of 2 schools which does not have an on-campus home stadium.
That's right.
Now, that could change, sort of the rumor mill has indicated that might change sometime in the future.
Near future?
In the near future, that could happen.
So what? So if you're Edison, what does success look like?
I think success looks like realistic success is to be where Coach Shaw has lifted Central up to, where consistent year in and year out, you're at least around 500, 500 or better, and in contention for playoff berths. And I think for most TPS schools, that would be your, except for Booker T, of course. I think for most schools, that would be your definition of success. And if you can do more than that, which all the coaches being competitors that they are and the players being competitors that they are, you want to do more than that. But I think if you get to that level and then you can focus on, hey, let's go even further. Let's win some playoff games. I can guarantee you, I know that's what the goal is at East Central with Antoine Jimerson there. He didn't, and East Central faces a lot of those same challenges that Edison does. And East Central, I think, took a step forward this year. And Coach Jimerson's first year back, they got to 4-6. And now I think the next goal is to get that winning record, get into the playoffs. And of course, knowing Coach Jimerson, that he wants East Central to be making those deep playoff runs like they did under Travis Hill consistently 20 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And competing for state titles. As he said when he was hired, he said, yeah, we want you to be writing about us in late November.
Kip Shaw is just the latest example of another coaching move in the Tulsa area. And have you seen anything like this, Barry, the number of moves in a short amount of time in football?
No, I really haven't, at least as far as very high profile names and longtime coaches' names, longtime coaches. That's what's really surprising to me, because I think you'll get your normal coaching turnover. But for the coaches who've been around at one school for as long as they have, then for all of them to be leaving in a short period of time, that really is very interesting and unique.
All right, let's move on to basketball. You got a chance to see Parker McDaniel, Lincoln Christian freshman. You wrote about him in your notes a couple weeks ago, and that's when I first read about him. And I'm like, Barry, what's this kid like? And you were like, I'm not sure. Let me go see him play first. You've seen him play. What are your thoughts?
Freshman, he was averaging a 6'4" freshman guard who's averaging about 19, 20 points a game for a team that's in the 3A top 10. That's very notable. So I got my first chance to see him in person on Tuesday night when they played and beat Holland Hall. Of course, it was interesting because it was senior night and he's a freshman. And so the seniors sort of stole the show that night. It wasn't one of Parker's higher scoring games. He had just 11 points, but you could see that he's not your typical freshman. He's a little bit more mature. If you're looking at him, you would never think that he was a freshman. He looks, he plays at a higher level than a freshman. He had an off shooting night that night. So I didn't really probably see the real Parker that night, but he still did enough things. As you could see, he's really good at driving to the basket. It did enough things away from the ball to see that, he's not your typical freshman.
Who are some of the better freshmen you've seen in your career?
Rodney Clark jumps out into my mind, first of all, nearly 20 years ago. I guess it was exactly 20 years ago at Verdigris.
Has it been 20 years, Barry, for Rodney?
Yeah, his freshman season. Yeah, it's hard for me to believe. Freshman season was 20 years ago. And so he was quite a performer. Yeah, you could see from the get-go, he was something special. And of course, Keaton Page burst on the scene as a freshman too. And what a 4 years those two put together at the same time. I mean, what's amazing.
Yeah.
That they did it the exact same years. That's why the two leading scorers in Oklahoma history. That's why, besides them being good friends, they'll be forever linked in Oklahoma high school basketball history.
Yeah, that was a fun year watching those two play. Yeah, it's just incredible. Okay, before we go any further, let's talk a little all world football. But first, I just want to give a shout out to our high school wrestler of the week, Kristen De La Rosa, a junior from Broken Arrow. and she's on our website. You can go read all about her. But she's had a pretty good season at 115 pounds. And what jumped out to me, Barry, is she recently pinned Bixby's Jaden Roller. Is it Roller or Roller?
Think I haven't talked to that. I would assume it's Roller.
Okay, so
Well, I shouldn't maybe assume that, but we've got
so
all world football players. John Mark Roller.
right. Well,
It may
Jaden
not be. It
is
may not be. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I haven't talked with her.
yeah. So Kristen pinned Jaden Roller. Jaden is a three-time state champ, and Kristen pinned her. So that that kind of jumped out to me when I was reading the high school notes this week. So congratulations to Kristen De La Rosa, our high school wrestler of the week. Speaking of high schools, Barry, it is All World Week. We've so far this week, you and I are taping this on a Thursday. We've released boys cross country, girls cross country, softball, volleyball's on tap for tomorrow, and then of course you'll have football on the weekend. All state football on Sunday. How's all that going?
Well, thankfully, all the teams have been selected, and now it's in the hands of our design center. So, because it's always a long process to get all that information. I get asked by a lot of people, why don't you have this done sooner after the season is over? And we used to do that.
Yeah.
But it really, and believe me, we would like to get it all done. I would like to get it all done sooner than we do, but it is you would think with the advances in information and all that, things would get easier, but it really doesn't. I mean, just so much information to process. The Oklahoma Coach Association even waits longer than they used to. They used to announce their all-state selections like right after the season ended in December, and just sort of similar like what we did. But now they aren't doing it until January 23rd. There's just so much to process. You've got more classes than ever. And so to really, yeah, we could, if you said, yeah, do you need to have it done by January 3rd or December 28th? Yeah, you could throw something together, but I don't think it would be as thorough and complete as it is the way we do it now. And that's in the long run, you want to get it right. I mean, even up to our content deadline, which was just yesterday, I was still having information come in, gathering information that affected a couple choices on the first and second team, or the second team, basically, second team and honorable mention. So it's just, there's a lot of schools to contact and a lot of names to gather in to make those final judgments. So that's why we wait as long as we do. You don't want to wait too long, obviously. But I think that's a reason why I think the Oklahoma Coaches Association does it that way now, and why we do it that way too.
Of course, we're naming our finalists in the fall sports this week. Winners will be announced in all sports at our Bill Knight Automotive All World Awards banquet. That'll be this summer. We'll announce the date and time later, but we are having the show. That's where we will announce all the winners. Barry, what else is on your mind? Anything else, or shall we leave it there?
Patrick, before we move on, I do want to also make sure everyone's aware, and I go into this in the all-state column, as far as some of the logistics on the all-state process and what differentiates ours, whether it be basketball or football, from the Oklahoma Coaches Association. Is the Oklahoma Coaches Association, whose teams were published last week and announced last week, seniors are the only ones who are eligible for those teams. And those teams also are selected more and more in mind. There aren't strict guidelines in this, but there are some people that you may wonder why they're left off of those Oklahoma All-State Coaches Association All-State rosters. You'd think, hey, that so-and-so is like should have been a slam dunk to been selected, but they aren't. And that's because coaches, they know, especially the major college signees, some high school coaches go ahead and nominate their guys who are major college signees and get them selected all-state, but some don't, because they want to make sure they are fully get their maximum of two representatives of the games. And if they're nominating someone, major college signees basically can't play in the game. Some it's because they're early enrolled, some because their college won't let them. So in order for those schools to make sure they have the two maximum selections from the OCA, that they'll go ahead and nominate someone who is playing, who's going to go to a Division II school, smaller college that they know will be, or at least there's a better chance they'll be available for the game, like Cale Charbonneau from Wagner. I mean, Wagner could have nominated like 6 or 7 people, but they know. Now they did win ahead. Alex Shield Knight, I believe, was also selected, even though he's going to OU and won't be playing in the game. Well, I forget if he was picked by them. He's on our team. He's on the Tulsa Worlds team. But that's, a player like Alex Shield Knight, who a major college signee. A lot of schools would not necessarily have put a player of that caliber up for All-State nomination, just because they know we can't play in the game. So that's why some people may be puzzled when they see the OCA All-State rosters and wonder why such and such a player was not picked.
And for us, we don't have such considerations. You're picking the best players at the positions, freshman through senior.
Right. We don't have, yeah, absolutely. And we've got a freshman on the second team.
Oh, tell us.
You don't want to wait till Sunday?
All right, fair enough. I was just seeing if I could get it out of you. All right, we'll leave it there for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Barry and I'll be back next week.